Welcome! This is the Scorekeeper training video for the Intergalactic 2018 tournament. Are you ready? Let's begin. When you arrive for your first shift, you will need to check in with the event runner. The event runner will give you your Scorekeeper username, your password, and you will be given a tablet to use for scorekeeping. You should see something like this on the tablet. First, you will need to log in. Click on the Quick Links button on the bottom right of the page. Next, click on the login link at the top of the page. Finally, click on the Tournament Official button. And now enter your username and password. When you've entered your username and password, click on the login link. You are now logged in. Click on the Go Home button. And you are now ready to scorekeep. You are now looking at a list of available tournaments. Click on Intergalactic, and you will see a list of machines in the Intergalactic tournament. You will now wait for a player to signal that they need you. 99% of the time, they will be signaling that they need a score recorded. To record or void a score, do the following. Click on the machine. In this case, we're going to click on Black Belt. If the player wants to record a score, enter the score and confirm with the player that the score is correct. Once you've confirmed with the player that the score is correct, you would click on the Record Score button. If the player wants to void their score, you do not need to enter the score. Simply click on Void Ticket. If the player wants to void their score and be requeued on the same machine, click the Void and Requeue button. Once you record or void a score, you will see the success screen. You will now have two options. The first option, Requeue Player, allows you to requeue the player who just finished their game on the same machine. If there is someone waiting in the queue, then you will have to deal with that person before you can do anything else. If the player who just finished their game wants to be queued on a different machine, ask them to wait while you deal with the person in the queue. You will see the next person in the queue at the top of the screen, and a list of all the players in the queue at the bottom. Call the name of the player at the top of the queue, and when they step up, click Start Player. If they do not respond after calling their name twice, click the Bump Player button. This will move the person down one spot in the queue and move the next person in the queue to the top. If you bump someone a second time, they will be removed from the queue. Once you have started the person at the top of the queue, you can either click on the machine list to return to the machine list, or click on Deal with Previous Player if the player who just finished still wants to be queued up on a different machine. The numbers on the left signify the number of players queued up on a machine. Click on the machine that the player wants to be queued up on, and they will be queued up on it. What happens if a player wants to start a game and there's no one currently playing the game or queued up? What you'll do is you'll go to the machine list and click on the machine the player wants to play on. So in this case, let's say it's Flickr. You'll ask the player for their player number and then enter it here. Confirm that the machine and the player are correct, and then click on Start Player. Then you can tell the player they can start their game. Note that players are not allowed to start a game without a scorekeeper. What happens if a player signals that they are ready to start playing a machine, but the software says a different player is already playing the machine? So as an example of this, let's say you are signaled by the player over at Flickr. So you click on Flickr, and the player says, I would like to start playing this machine, and the software seems to think that Brian Bauer is already playing and should have their score recorded. And the person in front of you is not Brian Bauer. So this usually happens when a player walks off without getting their score recorded. It is usually easily to determine if a player walked off. Ask the player now in front of you if they saw the previous player walk off without getting their score recorded. If you think this is what happened, you simply void the ticket and then proceed as normal. If you don't think this is what happened, then you can remove the player from the machine. We'll cover that in a few seconds on how to do that. What do I do if I started the wrong player on a machine, or the machine breaks and I need to remove a player from a machine? What you do is go to the machine list, and on the machine list screen, you'll scroll to the bottom of the list, and you'll find an undo button. Go ahead and click on that, and you will now be in undo mode. Select the machine that you need to remove the player from. In this case, let's say it's TX sector. Click on it, and you will get this nice little dialog which asks you if you want to remove the player. Confirm that the player's number is correct. Click on that, and the player is now removed. And if I were to click on TX sector, I will now see that it is no one playing on it. If you had to remove a player because you entered the incorrect information while starting a player, then you'll now need to enter the correct information to start the correct player on the machine. If there are people already queued up on the machine, then you'll need to use the undo mode to do this. So go ahead and click on undo, select the machine you want to put the correct player on, and then click on force start player on machine, and now enter the correct player's number. And now the player has been started on the machine. What do I do if I accidentally bump someone down the queue or accidentally bump someone off the queue? If the player who is now at the top of the queue has not started playing, you can use the force start player option that was just shown to deal with this situation. What do I do if a player walks up and wants me to queue them? Direct the player to the kiosk set up for this specific purpose. This concludes the overview of the scoring software that will be used at Intergalactic 2018. You will be given a short orientation before your first shift, which will cover this and other topics that you have any questions on.